Hey guys, welcome back. Finally bringing you a new episode. Have an awesome guest today, and I am so excited for you guys to hear the conversation that we had. The only thing I do have to tell you is for those with younger listeners, please be advised there is some strong language. Other than that, strap in and let's get stuck into another phenomenal episode. See you guys on the other side.
Hey guys, welcome to Tactical Foul. I'm Kyle Grew, as always, your host. Today, I have a special guest. He is not only a talented musician, he is an up-and-coming soccer coach. To be fair to him, not just soccer. I know he coaches a variety of different sports. He does a great job in all of them. And above all else, he's one of the most real, most genuine people I've ever met. And I get to call him my friend. So without further ado, I'll introduce you to LJ. His family knows him as Lawyer Jones, and I think many of you will soon know him as Truth Jones. So, welcome, LJ.
Hey, man, I love that intro, Kyle. Thank you very much, brother.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course.
That's awesome. Hey, everybody. My name is LJ, also known as Lawyer Jones, also known as Truth Jones. Born and raised in Midland, Michigan. Currently living down in Atlanta, Georgia. Like Kyle said, I've been coaching pretty much the majority of my adult life, but I really love music, and that is currently my pursuit of happiness.
That's awesome, man. And obviously, I think we've talked about this before. Like the fact that you're just following all your. I mean, you're still getting to coach. You are, but you're doing the music. You're just doing what you love, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day. Like, you can't. I like days might be tough, but like you're not really gonna be unhappy when you're doing what you love.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has some type of stress, right?
For sure.
I've just found I want to control mine.
Yeah, exactly. Before we move backwards a little bit, you're obviously, you're talking about the music being the passion in Atlanta, but you are doing a little bit of coaching. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so I actually currently am coaching down here for a club called Inter Atlanta. They're one of the biggest clubs in downtown Atlanta. They have partnerships with Atlanta United and then different businesses in the area. Man, they're really on the come up. They really,
sure.
on the come up. And that's not me trying to gloat. That's me being a fan of youth soccer and being like, oh, dang, you guys have something going here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I know we talked a little bit about it. Like, you're coaching, we struggle to get second teams up here, and you're coaching, way down. A fifth team, yeah.
12-year-old boys. I think there's a total of 8 teams in the age group.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, I mean, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, to be fair, like, the best we ever did was have for nationals, at Tri-County at least, was have a third team, and there was like, and it was for an 11v11 team, and there was like 10 kids on the roster. So, I could only imagine having a fifth team. That's insane. So, like I said,
you know what's crazy, Kyle? I'm sorry to cut you off, but
no, you're
what's
good.
Kind of crazy about it is the population down here is so big that the talent doesn't drop off. Some
for
of
sure.
Those kids would go into our area and make a second team. Like.
That's crazy, yeah.
Some might compete for a first team, like depending on where they're trying out for. Very interesting, man.
That is awesome. And we will definitely touch on that later, just kind of the differences. But I do want to go back a little bit and just kind of talk a little bit about your past. Obviously, you talked about growing up in Midland, Michigan. Obviously, that's where we met. Playing soccer and whatnot. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about your come up, your childhood, those type of things.
Yeah. So I was raised by a single parent. Immediately one sister. My mom was pretty much my whole world.
For sure.
She held me down for the longest time. Still does. Pops was around, but Pops wasn't there immediately. Right. I probably saw my dad 2 to 3 times a year, but every time that I saw him, I was giving game and love, right? So It's not like I ever felt like my father wasn't there, but in all reality, he physically wasn't there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not in the same situation, right? I had both my parents in my life, not together. They were also separated. Mom was mom was a single parent. I have two half sisters that were also, they came from the same dad. We came from different dads. And yeah, she held it down. My mom was working at one point 100 hours a week.
Preach.
Mom's strength is nothing to joke about. They are the strongest human beings on the planet, and no one can tell me anything different.
Oh, definitely. Shoot, my mom had to raise me. She's gotta be a strong woman.
Yeah, that is a good point. The fact that they put up with us is, that's a testament right there. That's all you need to know.
Exactly, 100%.
So, with your upbringing, obviously, like you said, like nothing negative or anything like that. What gets you into soccer? Because I think as coaches, it's probably not the most accessible sport to get into. And honestly, when we were growing up, it wasn't the most popular either. And obviously, we come from different cities, so maybe it was a little bit more in Midland, and it probably was, but still not as accessible as it is now.
Right. So I think now it's super accessible, and I'd even say even not necessarily as accessible as it is popular, right? Everybody
for sure
now knows what soccer is where I feel like when we were kids, yeah, people have heard of soccer, but they didn't quite understand the beauty of the game in itself.
Oh, yeah.
For me, man, I think everybody, see, that's the thing. So in Midland, everybody plays soccer at least 1 year. If you are a kid in Midland and you did not play rec soccer at the Midland Soccer Club for a half a season, I'm extremely surprised.
Right.
And so for me, it was just, I was more athletic, I could run faster, and I was a ball hawk at that age.
Right.
So just naturally, when we're playing bumblebee soccer, there's little LJ gravitating towards the ball. So I just, I was decent at it, and I kind of just rode that wave, in all honesty.
For sure. I mean, that's you figure out a way to. Honestly, it makes it easier to love the game when you're better at it. Let's just be real about it. If you're terrible, you may still like it, but you probably find something else.
Definitely.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say through some ups and downs in my soccer career, it's that love of the game that I got when I was 4, 5, 6 that got me through those moments where I probably would have quit, which means I wouldn't have been coaching.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be surprised to find people that didn't, have something like that moment, right? Like I had a moment where and I know you also like other sports, and I had a dynamic change in my team, and I was kind of ready to quit. I was so distraught because I knew nothing. I didn't know anything else. I wasn't happy with the way that the team was, and I really liked basketball. Luckily for me, I like to think I'm slightly intelligent, and I was like, Kyle, you are very short, and basketball is probably not your thing. You're not all that fast. You're fine. You're not that fast, and you're short, and yeah, you can kind of jump, but not as well as other people. So maybe we think about something else. And we're like, all right, fine, I'll stick with soccer.
Right. A little side note. Can you hoop now?
Right now, probably not, because I haven't.
Basketball, could you make a jump shot?
Yeah. Because I loved basketball. So I used to play, and same thing with soccer, right? Growing up, obviously I was a Pistons fan, but I would spend hours and hours and hours destroying my body trying to be Dwayne Wade in my driveway, doing a little throw it up as you're falling down to the ground, constantly. Ridiculous. Something that doesn't that's not something that happens mainly in a youth game, right? Doesn't happen all that often, but if my moment ever came, I was ready to take that foul and just launch the ball up and let it spin into the hoop.
It was going in.
Oh, for sure. But so
That's awesome.
Can I hoop right now? I would say no, because I haven't done it in a long time. But if you ask me to hit a jump shot, because I can kind of shoot, that's the one thing I can do. Yeah, I can do that.
Now that I know that, Kyle, next time I'm back around, whenever we get it going in Midland, I'll let you know, brother.
All right, sounds good. I mean, hopefully I'll be a little fitter so then I can run the court a little better.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, speaking of basketball, I mean, we're gonna stick on this topic just for a second. Speaking of like childhood, like when I was younger, I was probably, I want to say just around high school or maybe a little bit younger than that, maybe middle school. Someone we both know, Chaz Wakeman. Funny enough, first besides soccer, and I didn't know him, but I was invited by one of my friends that he was on my soccer team in Bay City. We went to play basketball with like some people he knew in Midland. I don't remember where the court was, but it's pretty populated little thing. So I think it must have been a pretty like standard thing. And yeah, I went and played basketball against Chaz. He was it's just funny like a thing like that because I'm like I remember we got in the same soccer team, right? Like, and I'm like I'm looking at this kid. I'm like, why do I know you? And I'm just like, and he's like, Chaz got his bravado about him, and like especially in our younger days, and he's like, yeah, I hoop, and I was like, oh my goodness, you're the kid that just sped around the court. You didn't really make a whole lot, but you got up and down the court so fast.
His basketball game is just like his soccer game. You're not going to take the ball away from him.
No.
But I don't think he's going to put it in the back of the net.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to score it.
Yeah, for sure. That's Chaz's game. He's going to do everything else, but he's going to let somebody else put it in the back of the net. Nothing wrong with it. By the way.
I'm still taking him every day of the week.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Love Chaz. I'll take him in both sports. I love Chaz. But yeah, so definitely love basketball still. So, and as I'm sure you do as well. So.
Definitely. So that was actually that's my second sport that I coach.
Okay, yeah. And so that's a good question I wanted to ask you is, I know you're coaching the soccer. Are you doing any, or do you have any plans to coach basketball while you're, at all still?
Yeah. So this last year I had an opportunity to coach the second and fifth graders at the school called the Children's School.
Okay.
So kind of a cool little story. I had this interview to be the middle school basketball coach.
Oh, wow.
For the varsity team. I was like, oh man, cool. I'm excited. I did good in the interview. I feel like I always kill an interview.
Right.
And I get a call back. And I'm like, hey, we have one more interview we have to do. We're not going to give you the varsity job because the varsity coach is going to come back. He's going to do one more year.
That's
so
fair.
I'm like, okay, fair enough. But they're like, we'll give you the JV job. Like, just stay tight. We got to do this one more interview. And so I'm like, oh, all right, cool. Well, I get a call back like a week later, like, hey, we want to offer you the second through fifth grade position. And I was like, okay. Well, what happened to the middle school job? And they go, well, this guy named Chris Robinson, who's an ex-NBA basketball player, applied. And so we just kind of feel it'd probably be the best move to hire him. And I was like, you know what? I think you guys are right. So I just took the second through fifth job.
Yeah, you can't really beat that resume. You can't.
You can't at all. And I got to work side by side with them, so that was awesome.
Oh, for sure. You learned so much. I'm sure of it. That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, I mean.
Kyle, we're gonna be honest though, man, and I'm curious on your opinion from this. You may work with somebody who's played with at a higher level than you.
Yeah.
But their ability to correlate the sport to the kid isn't always there. So, for example, for me, my assistant might have, or the NBA player might have known everything more than I know, right?
Right.
But the ability to communicate to that kid sometimes lacks. So the coaching ability quite wasn't there. Like, do you ever see that in your world at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely a big thing. Is like, people don't understand, and I didn't understand. Like, coaching is a different animal. Like, honestly, what happens is, like, when you're having to teach it, like, I've had to break things down because I'm like, yeah, I can teach that, and then I'm like thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know how to teach that. I just did it. Right? And like, so I've had to like, you have to learn how to like actually teach it because it's like, like even though you may know like a good amount of things, and like I like to think that like I learned like a good amount through my playing career, but it's like I don't know how to teach any of these things. I just kind of did them, like because a lot of times, like especially I think with us, like I wasn't really taught a lot of things. I watched it and then I just did it, or like I just kind of did it. Yeah, like you know what I mean. And so like I think that happens all the time where people have like these incredible, have incredible pedigree or resumes as far as like playing, but yeah, like it's really people don't understand like the ability to actually not only like say what is going on, but like also be able to make sure that it connects and it lands with the kids or whoever you're coaching. That is an incredibly difficult thing to do, and it's the I think I'm still learning how to do it at a better job than what I am right now. Like, because I mean, you can always get better, and like it's tough. I think it happens all the time where you get people like, you know, in not always, but you get people that like they played college and then they'll go, they'll go coach at some club or whatever, like or whatever it is, and you can just see like they're like they know what to do. If they're demonstrating, it's gonna look perfect. But if they're actually trying to say and like connect with a kid, they struggle. They struggle big time. For sure. I think it happens all the time, without a doubt. So no, you're definitely right on the money with that. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about Midland. Obviously, you know, different perception. I think I have my own perception of Midland. I kind of want to hear like what your thoughts are. Like if growing up, and I'll kind of even keep it with the soccer like specific. Growing up playing at Bassa, we play against Midland, and it was just we didn't we didn't like each other for whatever reason. We were just kind of like it was ingrained that we weren't allowed to like one another. And, like it was always felt like we were always kind of conditioned to be like Midland are these bunch of kids that are entitled, rich, and they're just kind of spoon fed, and like that kind of like that was the kind of like narrative that it was drawn, and it's not always true, obviously. But like that's kind of like growing up. Like I'm like, what? There's literally nothing about Midland that I like. Like I don't like their players. I don't like the way that they do things. Like nothing. You know what I mean? Like what was your like perspective of like the other areas around you? Did you have anything like that?
Well, so I'll even go to your perspective in Midland first, and we'll
Okay.
talk about other areas. Like with Midland, Midland is well. First off, everybody who's listening that lives in Midland, much love. I hope y'all are doing well. Follow the music, you know what I mean? Got to plug myself in. But
Absolutely.
regardless, Midland is in a bubble. And what I mean by that is, it's really tough to explain. Not to say people in Midland don't have struggle, because there are a lot of, like I said, everybody has stress. That we had that conversation earlier.
Right, for sure.
But man, things get covered up in Midland. There's a certain type of perception people lead in Midland, like your persona and what people think of you matters in Midland.
Right.
Like, you ever seen that Black Mirror episode where the girl's like, it's the likes on Facebook. If you get a certain amount of likes or a certain rating, then you can afford to buy certain things.
Right.
Yeah. If you have a certain class or you have a certain echelon, you have a certain ilk, you're looked upon differently.
Right.
So that leaves kids who have single parents, don't work at Dow, aren't influential in the city, aren't teachers, like, at least kind of kids in that gray space where I kind of lived in, where I know I'm blessed, but I also know that, like, we live in a bubble, and there's so much more outside of this bubble that I'm not experiencing.
Right,
but
for
at the
sure.
same time, we're experiencing in a different way, right? So, like, which is kind of even tied into all of the protests and things like that. The ways that I experienced racism aren't going to be the typical way that somebody else outside of Midland would experience.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very interesting, man. And then kind of it's funny that you say like people from Bay City or your Baptist soccer club wasn't allowed to like Midland, or just kind of like it felt like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it kind of for Midland, it felt like shoot, we're not allowed to like anybody.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that you say that, man, because I think we also kind of carried that ego complex into the sports as well.
Yeah, I think it still happens. You know, I think that there's still a rivalry. Maybe I don't know. I guess it's not true because I did when I coached at Bassa a little bit. Like it was definitely still like we don't like Midland, and so it's weird. It is a weird thing because you know it's funny because then what happens is you know you grow up, and especially if you leave these clubs and you go and like befriend a lot of these people. Like obviously like we didn't play together, but like you know we're friends and like I said, Chaz and Thomas Mimbiol who played on those teams who like I didn't like, not because I didn't know them, not because I knew them or anything, but I just was not supposed to basically. Now they're you know especially like Thomas and Chaz are good examples because you know they're two guys that I consider like really good friends, and it's like you're like all right. You grow up and you're like, really? We're good. Like, yeah, like, hey, honestly, like, as far as like economics go, like, yeah, they're both economically better off than I was, or better. But like, the truth is, like, at like the meat of it, like we get along on a good level because we just connect. So like, we have, we have common interests, we have whatever it is. It's like, so it's just really funny that like you have these like perceptions of these people, and it's like. You don't even have a perception of people. You just have a perception of a city that it's not even fair to like label that on anybody.
Right. Well, you want to talk about how crazy just the city is in general and how crazy the perceptions are. Like, people from Midland High hate people from Dow High and vice versa.
Right. Like Central and Western, right? Like,
But the second you leave that environment, like, so for example, from Midland High to Dow High, the second we left that environment and then we went to like party at Central Michigan, we were all best friends.
Right.
The second you leave Central and you leave Western and you work at the same job, it's like, well, shoot, we don't really care what college you went to. Like, let's go grab a beer. Like, it's just so interesting how we used to hold those ties, those negative rivalries.
Yeah, it's like, why? Like, I get it. Like, hey, like on the field, like I love rivalries. Don't get me wrong. Like, I love them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, we had a rivalry, but then like, and honestly, we got to touch on this actually, because I think it's hilarious.
Me too.
we definitely had a weird rivalry, but like it was all like competitive and just we wanted to win. But I do know like, and I've calmed down about it a little bit. But like early on, my talking on the field was heavy, and like I wanted to like get in everybody's head, and you were not excluded from that. And so I think one of the first times we ever played against each other, we came off the field with you thinking I had actually had professional training in fighting or something along those lines, right? Based on something I said. I don't know what I said, but I yeah, and I remember us talking about it like, yeah, you train like MMA, right? And I was like, not once in my life, but all right.
Oh my goodness. No, I remember that. I don't remember what we were talking. I think we were discussing something that happened on the field. You said something to me, and I can't keep my mouth shut either, especially if you're going to start talking.
Oh, for sure. Which I love. I love that about you, by the way.
I was like, there's something about like last year and beating you guys. I love that you brought that up, dude. That's such a good memory.
Right.
Because I looked at you and I said, okay, well, you ready? And you're like, bro, you're not ready for this. I was like, oh, shit.
Oh, I messed with the wrong guy. All right, got it. All right. Noted.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared.
Yeah, no. I try to mature a little bit and not talk as much. I can't say that like I'm definitely not perfect. I still look. I love to talk. I say this all the time. Each game is it's two parts, right? It's mental and physical, and
Yep.
I sometimes I think the mental component is more important. I really do. And so my whole philosophy forever, and probably will remain this way, but is if they're thinking about me, they're not thinking about the game no more.
Fully.
You know what I mean? And so I'll be honest. I probably need to do this right now just because I have a little bit of a platform. For those of you that I have said things that cross the line, and I've said it a lot, I apologize. I didn't mean it personally. I meant like, because I promise you, as soon as we got off that field, I'd have been your best friend. I promise. I said some, but LJ, I said some of the worst things that I've ever heard, and I'm just the one saying them. And
Yeah. No,
You-
I feel you.
you know what I mean? Like,
I'd be a hypocrite if I would say that like I did anything different, brother.
you know what I mean? I've
I'm
grown.
a shit talker.
I know it's wrong now. And so I try not to cross that line anymore, but I'm still going to talk. It's just going to happen. I can't help myself. I enjoy it. I enjoy the banter. And then like,
Listen, I'm grown too, but I still got a hit list, brother.
oh,
Oh, man, hit list.
100%.
I'm coming through him, man. He knows exactly who it is. I hope he listens to this podcast, and I hope he made it this far.
100%. I have this. I mean, I can't say I don't. You know, like if I feel like you need it, you're gonna get it. Like it's just what it is. I've fully embraced my role that like I'm a little bit of an enforcer.
Yep.
I'm not a hack.
I agree.
I'm not a hack. I'm like I won't ever be called that. Like I can play, but like
You and Colin.
Yeah.
I know both of you will come through and get somebody, let us know that hey, we're not doing that.
100%. We don't let anything happen, you know. And I mean, Los Renegados. That's kind of been our MO. Is like we're just a bunch of just, you know, like I don't even know the right wording for it, but like
Renegades. That's
yeah, pretty much like that. Literally the perfect thing. And so like we just weren't gonna take it from anybody, and honestly, we weren't ever gonna be. We were going to be the aggressors in maybe not in a soccer sense, but from like a physical standpoint, we were going to try to be the aggressors. Because, a lot of times, not always, there were some years where we had ballers, but like for a while there, like, we weren't the most talented group of kids. We just were, we're going to run through a brick wall and we're going to take somebody with us and hopefully we can get a goal in there.
right.
And
Well,
so,
and so correct me if I'm wrong, dude. That might just be a Bay City thing.
oh, we're grinders. We graft, we grind. Like it's in our blood. It is like we're blue collar.
It's a DNA thing. It has something in the water because right when I coached at Bay City Western.
Yeah.
And we can even tie this back into like just playing the whole Midland complex thing.
Right, for sure.
And we played Midland High earlier in the year. They got a D1 player, a couple D1 players eventually, but one player is going D1 immediately. A couple D2 players going immediately. Like
For sure.
we're not supposed to have any business with them, and we lose 5-1 the first game. But for anybody who knows soccer, the scoreboard does not always result to get like how the game went.
Oh, for sure.
4 of the goals were like, man, that goal was unbelievable. And the other one was a banger from outside 35 where it's like, man, dang, that's good.
Yeah, nothing you're gonna do, right? For sure.
Yeah, nothing you're gonna do. But the other 4, it's like, man, we were here. And so part of the concept of trying to get into the girls is like, hey, we're just gonna bully Midland because I know Midland doesn't like to be bullied.
For sure.
And it wasn't even I have to put that concept or that work ethic into them. I just more so had to tell them that it was okay.
Yep, 100%, 100%, and
then we play them in the district semi and we beat them 1-0.
Yep, that's just yeah. I think you're right though. I mean, at least. Yeah, I think it's the same way. I mean, even the kids that we have from Bay City, for the most part, like you just kind of get that vibe. Like they're ready to like go at they are not backing down. They do not care. And honestly, like
you gotta let them know it's okay sometimes.
yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly though, like I don't want to I want to play, right? Like I want to play, but at this like I'll use a good example, right? Uh, my '04 girls, my '04 second team at nationals.
Yep.
Um, we got some players on there that can play, they can ping. But you know what? Like one thing that I'll say, yeah, for the most part, any close game we won because like I've kind of just Cam had them before, and so he had a little bit, but like I'm like ultimate like grind, like physicality, and like I just got that in, like, and they just took to it really well, and they just and like we didn't lose close games because they were ready to grind out results and just battle and like they did not care, and so like it was really cool to see that. And even it's kind of funny, like even like my 2011 girls this year, like this past year, like I remember I was playing Midland, which is hilarious, and so like I didn't care, like I was just playing another game because now I don't feel that same level of like spite towards Midland, but like we're playing Midland and my little 2011 girls, right, like 9, 8-year-old, and just physical, right? Like because they get it from I've said like it's okay, like this game is a physical game, like you gotta be able to hang that way. Other teams have not been conditioned to do that, and so you got my little 2011 girls. You get one girl, and hey, it was probably a foul, and it happens. I said, hey, if it's a foul, the refs can call it. You just got to deal with it. Like I'm not here to back you up. Like if it was a foul, it's a foul. Learn the line, right? And I don't even know. I don't know what it was. I think it might have been a foul. It might have been shoulder to shoulder. It was across the field. My girl just trucks this other girl, this Midland girl, and when I tell you these Midland families lost their minds, I am not kidding. Standing up and like just losing their minds. It just because, and it's not even their fault because they just don't know. They don't understand that that's what the game's about, and they really don't understand that a Bay City guy is coaching the other team, and so he's been just like hammering into him, like you
perspective that they can't even grasp.
Yeah, for sure. And so like I'm not mad. I wasn't mad at him. I'm just like I kind of just chuckle at it because I'm like, oh, you guys will understand in a few years. Don't worry. I just have my girls doing it now.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I remember that one game we had. That was a battle. I love that game.
For sure.
Do you remember that game over to Midland? What this would have been 2018 spring season.
Oh God.
Right before I moved.
I'm trying to think.
This would have been what? I had the 2010 white team, and you had like the 2011 white or red team.
Are you talking about? Are you sure that wasn't Cameron with the 2010 girls?
Were you there? Did you just go watch?
I probably was there. I go to a lot of our games, so probably. Yeah. If you had the 2010, was it boys or girls?
Girls.
So maybe it was the 2010s. And to be fair, I could have been like guest coaching or something like that. I can't remember, but yeah, I mean, I think every game with Midland's a battle for the most part, especially at the younger age groups. Like you guys get get good kids.
I was gonna bring it up earlier, man, and I don't know how much we want to get into this without Cam. I think we should save this more so for part 2.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that new rivalry is really becoming between Midland and Nationals, if it's not already there.
I think it is kind of there. Like, it's like I said, like we have a rival. I love rivalries, so like I'm cool with it. Like, but I don't have the spite that I had. But like, don't get me wrong. Like, I want to beat Midland because I think that they, historically have done out of the Tri-Cities, they've done the better job of like the local clubs. So like I want to beat Midland, like because there's still like there's still this bit of like, well, are we sure that Midland's? Are you sure you're better than Midland? And it's like, that's fine. You can keep asking that. I want to prove like
the rivalry is the dynamic is so weird. So hear me out. Normal dynamics of a rivalry are like one team was the better team for always, and like there's this new team, and they challenge them, and maybe eventually they overcome them, but like you never know how that's gonna go, and then you watch how it plays out, and that's the rivalry. With y'all, it's super weird because y'all were Waza, you were Gators,
right.
You combined it, you combined it down south, and then it spread up to combined up here.
Right.
And just kind of happened. It's like, well, if you know Waz and you know Gators, those are elite clubs.
Right, for sure.
Off rip, those are elite clubs.
Yeah.
So for y'all to come and instantly implant yourself where Midland has controlled the Tri-Cities as being the most competitive club, like Varda North got ran out, right?
Yeah.
And instantly start not only competing, but like winning. You know, it's just going into what it is.
Right.
Like all of a sudden, the dynamic of the rivalry is super weird, man. It's super interesting. I personally love it because I'm for the side of the kids at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
Point blank period.
Absolutely,
And
100%.
And through conversations we've had, that kind of just goes to a testament of how that is. But you know,
No, for
it's
sure.
interesting.
Yeah, I think it is. I honestly like. I to me, in like obviously you played at Midland, which did well. Like, but like for me, like I would have. And I know we had Vardar, but Vardar was different. Vardar came in and they didn't really want to be a part of the community, at least in my opinion. Yeah. We want to be a part of the community. We're built by people from the community for the most part. You know what I mean? So like, but like I wish there would have been something like this around here, at least as an option. You know what I mean? Like there weren't many options. Like if you were at your club, you kind of were at your club. And like, right. For kids, I think options are the best thing in the world, to have your options. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's why like, it's got to be nice to be down in Detroit area and just have, you know, like, all right, like here's the brochure of the 400 clubs, you know what I mean? And by the way, like 100 of them are really good. Like, you know, like we just didn't have we didn't have that, and you know, it's not like there's a ton of clubs around, but there's more, and I like that. That's one thing that I really like for sure. And so yeah, I think that leads to kind of I think you're right. It leads to the rivalry between like Midland a little bit. Like Midland kind of, they got to scoop up most of those good kids usually, and so now there's a club in Saginaw, right, that also scoops up those talented kids, and but that, I think that's where it comes from, is like there's a little bit of like, hey, you're taking those kids that we usually got, and we're like, okay, sorry. Like, and so
and to an extent I get it, bro, but you know what makes y'all even more so here's the thing, and I don't want to, like I said, I want to get more into this when Cam's here.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm gonna keep it a $150 with you, Kyle.
Always.
Man, I don't think y'all were gonna be extremely successful under the people that were at your helm. Not to say the people that were at your helm weren't dangerous or weren't lethal or weren't good enough to do their job. But I will say this: I am, as somebody who supports Midland, I am more worried about your guys' status now, because Cam is somebody who gives a fuck.
Yeah, for sure.
So that makes me nervous as somebody who's like, oh, I wasn't really worried about what Nationals is doing, to like, oh, like they got somebody who really actually cares about the consumer at the helm. They're not just here to just like please people.
Yeah, I mean,
they're here to like please people in the right way.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh man, and that's a compliment towards Cam. First and foremost.
Yeah, I mean the coolest thing about it is like, and I have to say this because like the two guys that got us to the point that we're at, Tom and Luke, like they built the ship. They weren't they're not, you know, obviously they both left for reasons that were good for both of them. Cam, Phil, and Tyler, they're the guys that are going to lead. They're going to steer the ship. And honestly, yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate from where we came from, and I am so excited for where we are going, because, yeah, it's a collective of people that just, yeah, like you said, they care. Like, oh my God, they want this to be successful so bad, and they want everything we can offer to the kids. We want to offer that and then some. You know what I mean? Like the 100%. You know, the TCTV thing that we've done, like with streaming training sessions and doing different things like that would have never happened before. It wouldn't have. But we just have people, and I'm not in the leadership position, but I'm fortunate enough to where my voice is heard, and so I was able to help with a lot of those things. But Cam is a pretty technological guy, and so and he kind of understands that because I mean he's same age as us, where we come from this generation of of video gamers but it also kind of like there was more to it, right? Like Twitch makes sense to us, which is why like
there's a whole different game. We are living in such a whole different world than all these other heads are that they don't even know how to tap into that market.
Exactly, and so which is what it's just coming at it from a different angle, and I just think I think we might have just struck gold a little bit with the way that we've approached it, and we feel good about the things that are happening during a pandemic. Can you imagine? Like we're just like, oh my goodness, can you imagine when we have a real when we're back to normal? Oh my, like watch out, type of thing. Like that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot more to dive into it, and like when we'll have Cam on with all of us, and it'll be a really good conversation that I'm excited for. But I'll keep this moving a little bit. I do want to talk about the music, because like we said, you love soccer and you love the sports, but the music's your passion, and that's the love right now. That's what you're trying to go for. So just talk us through, where did that start for you, and just what made you decide to like really pursue it?
Definitely. So I guess it's kind of always been in my blood as far as like my dad makes music, and
okay.
Right, we go back to the conversation earlier about how my dad wasn't quite kind of around always, but like for some reason it always just was in me. So around 5th grade, I started in choir.
Yep.
At like Adams Elementary, just simple basic choir shit. Around 7th, 8th grade, I got put into this like honors choir through the Midland Center for the Arts.
Okay.
I did stuff like that. I just hate school. So I struggled in school setting.
Same.
So I stopped choir my 9th grade. I went back my 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
Okay.
And then I also went my freshman year of college. That was just for the singing aspect. I started writing and rapping probably around 11th grade.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I have a friend named John D'Alessandro who he wasn't necessarily humongous at Midland High, but like everyone knew him as like the white rapper at school type of deal.
Right, for sure.
And that was my homie. And like realistically, he could spit, but once again, coming from Midland, like why are you rapping? You should be an engineer or something.
Right.
So, like,
it was frowned upon almost.
100%. They ruled him out. They ruled him out off the rip, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But through him being one of my good friends and being loyal, like I always stuck with him, and eventually I started writing and rapping. And man, fast forward to 2020, I'm living in Atlanta, really doing it.
For sure. No, I remember when you were kind of saying like you were getting ready to leave, and I was pumped. I mean, I know like you kind of always talked about it like LA or different things like that, but then like this actually was like real, and I was like, I love that. Like, and I again, like you keep 100, like same here, like just listening to your music, like from back like a few years ago or whatever to now, like you can hear it, the amount of work that you put into it, because it's like everything else, like you're not going to be your best at the beginning, you're just not, right? Like, and so
exactly.
you put a ton of work into it, like, and I like to, I've always supported you or whatever, but like, now I'm just like, yeah, you can just hear it. You found more of your sound. You found more of like, just everything that kind of goes into it. And like, I'll be honest, I'm not an expert at what goes into it, but I just, as a music consumer and someone who loves music as well, like, I mean, talking about your dad, like my dad is a fairly well recognized guitar player in the area. One of the better known guitar players in the area, to be fair. And so he's been doing music and, been in bands.
Give him a shout out real quick. Sorry to cut you off. Give him a shout out real quick.
Oh, Doug Grew. Everybody knows my dad. He doesn't need any more shout outs. He doesn't need to hear this. His head's big enough. He's fine. I always tell him like, yeah, you're decent at guitar. Don't get too ahead of yourself. But in actuality, like, I would love to learn guitar like he can play. Like, I'll never know how to play guitar like he can, and I'm cool with that. I've tried to learn. He's tried to teach me, which is a hilarious. Like, you could like, it's basically a sitcom trying to have him teach me how to play guitar. He's just like, why don't you get this? And I'm like, I don't know, because I don't know how to play guitar, Dad. I'm not really sure. Like, and it's just like, it's just two people just clashing, and it's just I imagine from an outside point of view, it's probably hilarious. But yeah, so
I'm just listening to it and I can already see it, bro.
yeah, for sure. And I'm just like, Dad, like, I really like this guitar, like, and like, I have my own guitar, which is, my mom, like, music, like, because, and actually, I gotta say this, for any, like, kids listening, or anybody, for anyone who wants to make fun of people that are in choir, just listen to us, because you are listening to two guys who I believe wouldn't be looked at as, like, complete, like, losers, or like anything like that, or even, like, viewed as, like, geeks. You're looking at
100%.
two choir boys right here, and I have no problem saying that. I loved being in choir. It was a great time, so that I have to say that. So,
And you know what? Hold up. And you know what? I'm gonna add on to it. For anybody who wants to even talk some shit with my age, who's like, "Oh, look at these! I knew these guys back in school, man. They were nerds, man. I have more sexual affiliations with any woman than you have ever had." Yeah.
oh my goodness. Oh, I love that.
I had to let them know. I don't think other separate people listen.
I think if you can't tell, that's pent up a little bit. So I understand that had to be released. So it's all good. But yeah, so, like, with the music thing, I get it. Like, it's there. Like, I have it in my blood a little bit. So, like, I totally understand. Like, you just, from a young age, you just for me, like, I didn't it didn't drive me as much, but, like, it was a constant thing, and it's definitely music is a love, not in the same way as you, but it's definitely a cool thing for sure.
Well, and so that's one of those things I've always had to balance as well, too, right? It becomes tough because, man, there was moments where, like, for example, I got a lead role off of so, like, I had a theater class, right? And then you know how, like, that's different than the plays that you actually do in the school.
For sure.
So through my theater class, I got asked to be a singer for a lead play in one of the plays that was, like, for the school.
Okay.
But unfortunately, that play panned out. That tryout for the play was the same time as basketball tryout.
Yep.
I'm a hooper. I love soccer. I'm a hooper.
100%.
Anybody who knows me, I'm a hooper.
Right.
I love soccer. I love to play soccer, but, like, man, basketball runs through my blood.
Oh, absolutely.
Just a little bit under music. And, man, I didn't go to that play. And if I go back and I look through my life, man, I've always had to choose kind of soccer or music, basketball or music.
Right, for
more
sure.
so sports or music, and it's always been a sports selection. So this is really the first time in my life where it's like, man, I could have been making X amount of dollars in coaching in Midland.
Right, for sure.
But I've never chosen my music side, and I'm still here 27 pursuing music, and I've never really given the opportunity to do it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. I just think that it goes to show it's never too late. You know what I mean? Like, so that's awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
For sure. So, and no, for sure. I mean, just kind of, like, back that up a little bit. Like, I remember being in, like, middle school, and I like, again, I loved basketball, so I played basketball. We were doing High School Musical, by the way, for our school play. Like that, I'm dating ourselves here. So and so I got in the play. I had a role, like one of, like, the speaking roles and stuff, and obviously singing. But I had to miss, like, a bunch of rehearsals because I had basketball games or I had basketball practice, and, like, I told them, like, sports come first, and so, like, I knew all my stuff. Like, I did. Like, I was working double time because, like, that's what happens when you choose to do these extra things. Like, you have to kind of work double time to succeed.
100%.
And so but it didn't matter because like it was kind of clear like I chose the sport. And so what they did is they just gave me a lesson. They kept me in the play, but they took my main role and gave it to like the next person in line or whatever. And like I remember that I'm like, oh, that's. And so the next year, that was like 7th grade. So the next year, 8th grade, still playing basketball, told me like, hey, you would have got a main part, but I know you're gonna go to basketball. Like if you're still gonna go to like, unless you're gonna commit to this, I can only give you a small part. And I was like, all right, well, give me a small part, I guess. So that's how I ended up being a rock lobster in Alice in Wonderland. So, so,
I didn't expect that to be the answer.
so yeah, so I get it. But I mean, like anything you do, like just especially if you want to do it at a high level, sacrifices have to happen. And it's kind of unfortunate, but it's just the way it goes. No matter what it is, it's just sacrifices have to come, and it just comes to a time where you have to prioritize a little bit. So I want to move on a little bit about kind of talk about Atlanta. What's that like? What's the difference? I know it's bigger and everything, but like just give me what are the big differences in like the culture of soccer from this area to Atlanta?
Culture of soccer from this area to that one, man.
I know it's tough. Hey, I gotta ask some good questions.
It's not, dude. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant question. This is for all my coaches and lovers of youth sports because it's very interesting. Atlanta is very much so structured, and I feel like I don't want to say dependent upon, but I would say structured upon what the U.S. soccer model says.
Okay, interesting.
This is what the U.S. soccer model says, so this is what we're gonna do. A, B, C, D. We're gonna follow A, B, C.
Interesting.
Maybe that's a club thing, but this is also one of the top clubs in Atlanta, so I'm just kind of trying to get some correlations.
Right, for sure.
As where I feel like in the Tri-Cities, and correct me if I'm wrong, we don't necessarily go against what U.S. soccer says, but we have a lot more freedom as coaches to implement or change a game plan. So, right, like so, for example, USS Soccer says a 4-3-3 is the main formation to run an 11 side.
Right.
So the coaches down here, most teams you see are going to run a 4-3-3.
Okay.
Well, if I want to have 3, 4, 5 forwards that can go and play that 3, I really only have 2. I might only have 1. I might think about not running 3 forwards.
Right, for sure.
And I feel like in the Tri-Cities, since that would be the smart soccer decision, we go ahead and we make that decision. In Michigan, that's why I think Michigan might be one of the top soccer states. When we see an issue, we go ahead and we figure out what's the best solution for that issue.
Right, for sure.
This is what U.S. soccer says is the solution. Let's apply it.
Okay. I mean, I think there's merit in both for sure. I mean, I think if our soccer federation, and this is an opinion, I think if our soccer federation had a much clearer picture and obviously, had more tangible like reasons why we should follow it, I think you would see more people follow it, and it would be more of a commonplace, like you see in places like Spain and the Netherlands and different things like that.
Right.
But because I think the United States for so long, and honestly, I still think to this day, doesn't necessarily have the clearest of pictures. It's kind of hard I would say it's hard for a lot of people to follow that and to just kind of, almost blindly follow it, completely, right? Like I still think we take things and you have to, you're ignorant not to, right? Like you have to take some things because like there is some thought put into it for sure. So like listen to it and take it, especially when you're obviously like you have to follow it when you're doing your coaching like badges and whatnot. Like regardless if you don't like it, like hey, I run a rondo at every single training session. Guess what? I'm not running at U.S. Licensing courses because omnidirectional games have no place in U.S. soccer for the most part, right?
Yep.
Um, but guess what? They work really well, and everybody else uses them. So I'm gonna keep using it. But that's just the way it goes. So I think I definitely think that's interesting though. Like, and honestly, I'm really shocked to hear that. And maybe you're right. Maybe it is just kind of your club. But I'm a little shocked to hear that they follow the U.S. guidelines just based on like what I guess my perceived like view of that culture and that the climate that's happening there, because Atlanta is kind of a crazy town. It's a massive town, but the soccer there is massive. Like it's a hub for the United States for soccer
It
right
really
now.
is.
And
Yep.
so, but also like, and honestly, I think this is a good way to tie this in. Is like, Atlanta is at the forefront of really kind of, you know, integrating like kind of pop culture, which right now I think one of the biggest pop culture is hip hop. I think that's more prevalent in today's culture than in a lot of times than any other music genre. And Atlanta's obviously a hotbed for that as well. So like it's surprising because when you think of like those two things, like honestly, when I think of the U.S. soccer model, I just think it's a how do I want to put this? It's very white, white and privileged, and that's not the way that I don't view that with Atlanta. You know what I mean? Like I view like it's not Bay City, but like it's kind of what we talk about Bay City, where they work, they grind, and like they have a lot of cool culture and different things that's why it surprises me. You know what I mean? But
Well,
hey,
I think it plays into the fact that soccer in America is a rich white sport.
oh, 100%.
In comparison to other parts around the world where that's not the case, right?
Absolutely.
And kind of going into what your point is with like the whole hip hop thing. We think about hip hop, and hip hop was originally created to like not disrupt the peace, but it was a fight against the man, right?
Yeah,
Against
for
the
sure.
man.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying.
How can we trust the man when the man can't make the World Cup?
That's my point exactly.
So
Yeah.
like, so why are we following the U.S. model? So this is some personal shit. This is
Hey, speak it. No, nothing wrong.
Why are we following a model, or why do we have a model that is proven to be unsuccessful from our top level, and now we want to prove it to our kids? Now I get you have to have some time in it.
100%.
Boom, I get it. But if that's your argument, then we should have kept Klinsman, gave him another 5 to 6 years, so his youth kids can now progress into his national team. In comparisons like the Pulisic or the Julian Greens or who's the midfielder who's playing for the U.S. right now too, who's a beast at the 6.
Well, Tyler Adams is a 6. Weston McKennie, both in Germany.
McKinney, who's I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Like we gotta give these. We're either going to, as a soccer community, going to give these European or other cultures time to implement their systems in our culture and then use it, or we're going to keep going back to Bruce Arenas. Or
God, please
not. You know what I'm talking about? And that's gonna work. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Come on.
I mean, I think the best way to put it is, the definition of insanity is to keep doing something and thinking you're going to get a different result. And that's why the United States is insane, because we keep doing the same things, keep putting the same people in charge, and we're expecting it to be different. No, it's not going to happen. It's just not. And I think from two people that, I mean, I love watching the United States play. I'll still keep supporting them, but good God, please give me something better to watch. Give me some hope. That's all I'm asking for. And right now, like, honestly, like, I'll say this: I think Berhalter is saying the right things. So I'm cool with giving him a chance. I vibe with a lot of things he's saying. So it's about time. You're right. It is about time. But it is kind of like you do wonder, like, all right, would we be in a better spot if Klinsman still would have been in charge? Like we're not one of these top countries that can just get rid of a coach to go get another top guy. Like, we just have to give people time. Like, that's the only way that we're gonna move forward for sure.
And not even just time, but like you got to give a chance for his culture to like actually set in.
Yeah, for sure.
The culture might set in within a year, right? Like you never know how long that's gonna set in, but you gotta get that of like the love for the game, going back to what we were talking about earlier, to set in. Like we don't have a lot of people around the world that are traveling the world to go play football. If they're gonna play football, they play in America.
Yeah.
We know America's not breeding the best players.
Yeah, for sure.
Where's the disconnect at for me? You know, if I was somebody, if I was somebody who wanted my kid to be the best, I'd send them to where the best was.
Yeah,
I mean, that same concept, let's try to get the best to like implement their teachings into our culture in comparison to being so like stubborn about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually want to touch on that. Like you're right. Like, and that's why I think when both of us say like it is a rich white person sport, like hey, anyone listening, especially players, like if you fall in that demographic, we love you. We're glad that you're at our club. But like,
all love,
yeah, 100%. But like you're right, like because as parents, they make these decisions for their kids that they think, okay, my kid is doing a good job. I want the best, which is why that they take them and put them into travel soccer, which is phenomenal. Like absolutely, our parents did it, you know, at like whatever, you know, in our time, so we appreciate that. But so that's not the issue. You have people that are willing. You have parents and like that are willing. The problem is from soccer is there's people that can't afford it, or there's people that don't really know, and you don't have enough people that are creating outreach programs or different things like that. And you miss so many people, and it's like, and I'm not one of these guys that are like, well, what if LeBron was a soccer player? LeBron probably wouldn't be that good because he's 6'7" and 245 pounds. Name me a soccer player that's running around that's real successful. The only guy people will say is Peter Crouch. That guy was 150 pounds. And honestly, you don't ever mention him in the top 10 ever. So, next.
Well, but imagine if he wasn't. Imagine if he had the time. You know what I mean?
And I get it. I totally get it. But I think that LeBron James and a lot of these athletes that we talk about, they were recruited, and they were because, especially basketball. Basketball is a great example, right? Like it's so accessible. And even at the higher levels, it's still fairly accessible. And so they they find these kids, no matter where they're from, no matter what their demographic is, no matter what their background or economic, position is, and they find them. And I think LeBron was made for basketball. He has the body for it. He has the physique. And then obviously the skill set came, So it's about finding the right people and in implementing that love that we're talking about in putting those into the cultures and then also allowing other people to get in that normally wouldn't. And right now, obviously, as a country, we're just not doing a good enough job at that. Which is why I think I like what Atlanta is doing, because it seems like they seem to be doing a better job of that. Because there's so many people in Atlanta that have gotten either behind, that have got behind the team, Atlanta United, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that you have celebrities like 2 Chainz and Waka Flocka and different things like that, supporting the club. You know what I mean? And so a kid or whatever that's listening, they're like, oh wait, he's a soccer fan? Hang on, let me look at this real quick. And I think, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, which is fair, and I agree with you, but I'll also retort with, when people like Atlanta United as much as they were successful off the first year.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to a point of our U.S. model versus every other model, if you find successes, it's so much easier to go to something, right?
Oh, for sure. And yeah.
I don't know. I just find it very interesting to find the distinctives between a Michigan soccer club or a Michigan youth soccer versus Georgia youth soccer. And for me, I feel like Michigan youth soccer is farther along ahead, but we don't have a professional team.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean that would be huge. I mean, we don't have, and that's the problem is we do have a professional team, but because of the U.S. model where the only the only teams that are looked upon as professional are the ones that play in the MLS. Unfortunately, because of the way that our system is, because DCFC is now technically a professional club, which is awesome. It's really cool, but like it's not looked upon as the same thing as like, not that far away in Columbus as the Columbus Crew is. Like they're an MLS club, they're better. It's like like the DCFC has a rabid fan base and they have a good amount of success, obviously at a lower level, but like that's still, but it's not looked upon the same. And so you're right, like because we don't have a perceived professional club, you don't have the same amount of like momentum that's kind of given to these other clubs. And like Atlanta, like they are a professional club. Now it goes back to like look at who their manager was, a successful manager, and that's probably who did things differently. Was not was a very successful with Barcelona. Used that kind of the same possession based system, and he used it here, which was different than what other clubs were doing in the MLS. And then they also Atlanta United was one of the, not the first or anything, like because they had always been coming, but like they changed up their model system where they went and got these young up and coming South Americans, and that's where they had that's why they had so much success, because Atlanta did what the United States needs to do as far as United States soccer, and that's just changed up the game. If something's not working, they change. If the model's not working anymore, if it's stale, if it's boring, or whatever it is, change it. And Atlanta United did it, and they walked into a championship in their first year. It's like, if that's not enough proof, I don't know what is.
Right, and so that's where I don't know. That's a whole deeper conversation. You're gonna really get me going.
Yeah, for sure.
If you do things right from the jump,
exactly, 100%.
You don't have to worry about problems at the end.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
I tie that shit into like the protests and the riots right now. If certain administrative figures would have handled shit right from the jump, I don't even think you had any protests in general.
Yeah. I mean, there are always, causes and effects, right? Like, and if you can, if things go right in the first place, usually there's not a bad effect. Yeah, 100%. And it's just the way it goes. Like, there's nothing else to say about it, right? Like, everything that happened, and I think with this topic, I don't want to like skate around it or anything like that. Like, but I think it's one of those things where if we start talking about it, we'll probably talk for another 2 hours about it. So for that sake, because it is so important and it deserves all the time to talk about it, I will just say this, like, yeah, like if people do the right thing and like morally and ethically, like usually good outcomes come. Like like just if people,
more often than not.
Yeah, exactly. And not always, right? Like bad things happen all the time to good people for sure, but like I think I believe a lot in like just like if in like people being positive things tend to happen eventually. And so if we can have more people being positive in all aspects of life, I think better times and better days are to come for sure.
Totally.
So, and and I mean, I think we've kind of talked about it, not too much, but fully support you, fully support all the things that's going on. But yeah, we'll keep moving. That way we can people aren't listening to this for 3 hours. So
yeah, separate conversation, y'all. Separate conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one thing that I want to ask you about is like, obviously it's kind of a microcosm of what we're talking about with like the music side or hip hop in soccer. Does that kind of inspire you that your two worlds are kind of colliding a little bit more and you can see it happening? I mean, you look at like the Paul Pogba's of the world, who's definitely he's in design, he's in videos, and I think he may even rap a little bit like with designer and people like that. You have Memphis Depay, who's actually like recorded some like I don't know if you've ever listened to him, but like actually some like decent stuff. you have Neymar that's popped up in different videos and different things like that. But like, what does that kind of excite you that your kind of two worlds are colliding a little bit more?
Well, so I love it. I love it.
Okay.
I loved it when Hoopers did it.
Right, for sure.
For my position, it's completely different because I'm coaching.
Right.
If I were a player making music or anything of that nature, it's not negatively viewed because I'm not supposed to hold a certain type of standard.
Okay, for sure.
As where when I'm coaching, you hold a certain type of standard. You're working with people's kids. You can't look a certain type of way. You can't act a certain type of way. As where with music, if I want to entertain, you have to look a certain type of way. You have to act a certain type of way.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And sometimes that line gets very blurry. Sometimes that line gets crossed. So for me personally, I've found the issue, man. I struggled.
Okay.
I can't even lie to you. That's part of the reason I moved out here was to get myself out of an environment where I'm known as Coach LJ because I want to start to be known as Artist Truth Jones.
For sure. I mean, you kind of talked about it, right? Like with I think John was his name, right? Like, I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like, he's looked upon like, oh, you're the white guy. Like, you're a white guy. Like, this game's not for you. Like, go be an engineer. You're from Midland. You're probably rich. Yep. Like, that's the like, and so like he has to move too because like you can't get out of it. And like, you're LJ. You're the fun coach that does this. Like, you can't be a rapper. Like. It's like, yeah, I can. Like, yeah, you can. Like, but exactly, you have to move.
I've been rapping longer than I've been coaching.
Yeah, exactly. So it's tough, right? And like sometimes that's the best thing is you just got to make a change, like we're talking about. So yeah, I can see that though. Like it's right. Like when you were a player and you were rapping, it's like, oh, like he's got more going on. Like look at him. Like that's kind of cool. When you're a coach, because what the perceived notion of like a rapper is like. You're not the best like role model. You're not the best whatever person or whatever, which isn't true, but like that's like the connotation of being a rapper. And then when you're a coach, of course, like you have to be a role model. You have to be like you have to set a good like example for these kids, which is true. Like we are in a weird, but I think very like. Cool position where we do affect the lives of the kids that we coach, sometimes more than what we realize, which is terrifying on one hand, but also like it's a blessing that we're in that position. So like I get it, but at the same time it's like if we could just come to an understanding that like just because you're a rapper doesn't mean you're a bad person, then it would make it a lot easier. It would probably make it a lot easier for you to do both.
Exactly. And I think that kind of goes to just like there's always been a negative connotation towards hip hop, unfortunately.
Oh, for sure.
Anybody who actually listens to it actively understand that there's many forms of hip hop. Yes, there's hip hop that has extremely negative connotation towards it.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also country music that has that. There's also screamo music that has that. There's also like you can find negative anywhere that you look, but
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like hip hop it doesn't get that same benefit of the doubt.
No, for sure. Like it's actually really funny. My dad and I were talking about this. Like, like my dad's a rock and roller, right? And like that's frowned upon because like they outwardly talk about sex and drugs and those things, and then we're like, but if you listen to some country music, they talk about a lot of the same stuff, but they just have a nice voice and they bring it in like a prettier package, so no one ever questions when they talk about sex or different things like that. You know what I mean? Like it's true. Like it's just how it's just. I mean, it's just the way if you look at it from a different angle, that's all it takes is just looking at something from a different lens one time, and you probably have a different perspective than you did before. And it's tough for people, but for sure. Like I mean, I know I have a buddy that I went to, and I'm blanking on his name, which I feel terrible about. But he was a couple years younger than me, and he raps as well. He ended up moving to Arizona, but like all of his raps are like he also does like he's a youth pastor as well, I believe, something along those lines. And so like his raps are obviously very driven by like the church and different things like that. So it's like, yo, is he a bad guy because he raps? Like probably not. Like, uh,
Probably not, but if you ask somebody, they might tell you, yeah.
yeah, because I mean, and honestly, it's more so because he's a black kid with dreads that raps. Like, it's like, but like, listen to the other parts of his life that he does. Like, he's a really upstanding guy. Uh, it's like, yeah, I mean, same thing with you, right? Like, it's mind boggling from my perspective, you know, like, um, just sitting back and like I see what you're talking about, and it's unfortunate. But like I watch and I'm like, you guys don't even know the people you're talking about. Why do you even have an opinion? Why do you have
Right, right.
like an uneducated opinion is literally the worst thing of all time. Like
Oh man, we're getting so much of that right now.
yeah, absolutely. Like what if you don't have if you're not educated, why talk? That's and honestly, I'll be honest, that's a big reason why like I don't know that I'm the right place to like this isn't the right place for me to talk about what's going on, even if I have an opinion, because I don't even feel mine's educated enough, you know. And so I'd rather not,
And
you know.
Kyle, that's educated in itself.
Yeah,
You know
100%.
what I mean? To be able to be like, I don't know, is more educated than
For sure.
half the other people who are like, I know, but they're misinformed.
Yeah, exact. 100%. 100%.
I
No.
respect that way more, man.
Yeah, and like so yeah, I 100% agree. So, a couple other things I want to just talk about before we wrap this up. Um,
Yep.
you know, like when you do rap though, and is it inspired by you know sports or anything like that? Has anything like that? I mean, obviously, you know, one cool thing you got going on is recently, you just did the you know I guess theme song for the is it Bresca women? Is it women's soccer? Is that right?
Yeah, so I called it Bresca.
Am I wrong?
I think I got corrected by the head coach. I think it might be just Brescia.
Brescia. Okay, my bad. All right, I can Brescia.
But you were super close, super close. And yeah, so no, Sean Sunderling is the head coach over there, and I had a cool opportunity since he used to work at the Midland Soccer Club to
Yeah,
meet
for sure.
him. And just through that, man, he needed a theme song, and I love writing music, so I had a cool opportunity to write a little theme song for them for their school year.
Yeah, that's awesome. That I love. It was quite good. It was really cool, and I was really happy to see that. So, with that, obviously that was like a you know I don't want to say forced. That's not fair, but like that was like a thing that was planned out. But like when you're writing music, like do you completely separate them, or like is your sports very inspirational when it comes to your music as well?
Oh man, that's a great question, Kyle. I think when it comes to writing it, it's not influential in the slightest.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll use a bar or two from sports references,
Right. Right.
and I'll tie it in. But as far as getting to writing it, no. Where I find sports has completely prepared me for my music career
Okay.
is when it comes to like being on stage.
Huh.
Because I find that's my field, right?
Right,
Me
for sure.
practicing, me making these songs, that's my practice. That's I could not do that and still go perform and possibly compete at a decent level.
Okay.
But if I don't put that actual time in to go into my competition, when I go and I perform in front of somebody live and they see it, it's like, man, that's like a first impression, right? Like, if you hear my music and you've never heard of me, you might get a type of impression.
Right, for sure.
But if you could, let's say your best friend was like, hey, we're gonna go watch Truth Jones. I love this guy, and you're like, hey, I've heard of him one time and I hated that song, but because I like you, because I like my friend, I'm gonna go listen to
For
this
sure,
person.
for sure.
And you come and you watch me kill a show, I've instantly garnered a fan simply because I was prepared in that moment. So through practices and competition in soccer, I kind of translate that into my music as far as like my final live performance.
Yeah,
I'm
for
ready
sure.
to actually put the ball in the back of the net.
Yo, absolutely. No, that's awesome. So I mean, it's kind of like it doesn't inspire the actual songs, but it definitely it adds to everything that you are, and that's fair.
Yeah.
That's definitely fair. So, no, that's awesome, man. We're not done yet, but what I'm gonna do here is, I know we kind of talked about what we're gonna do at the end, but I do want to kind of run some questions, some like rapid fire stuff by you. Okay.
Perfect.
All right. So we're gonna blend it a little bit, music and soccer.
Okay.
When you got a soccer game, give me your top 3 songs that are in your warm up playlist.
Oh, God.
I know.
Okay. Man, anything J. Cole.
All right, I love
Off
that.
of one. Anything J. Cole. I'll play it. It could be a soft song, J. Cole. It could be a hard song. As long as I can hear his cadence and his words,
Okay.
I can put myself into a good space. I've been listening to a lot of I don't know if you ever heard of Tom Missich, but he is instrumental based.
Okay.
Plays a lot of festivals. It's very upbeat. It's dancey.
Okay.
I don't want to move your shoulders.
Right,
I
for
listen
sure.
to a lot of that stuff. And then if I had to pick a third song, I can't give you a specific. Actually, you know what? I'll give you a specific. It would be like a T Grizzly first day house, where I can shake my invisible dreads and go crazy.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. That's awesome, man. All right. Who was the player that first made you oh wow, when it comes to soccer?
Thierry Henry.
My man. See, this is it. This is why we're friends. Same thing.
Oh my goodness, man. Some of the stuff he would do was just so beautiful. And I'm somebody who never really liked to watch soccer.
Okay.
As much as I played, cause I was always playing, so I was never I wanted to spend my time watching.
Right, for sure. I get that.
I wanted to spend my time doing other things. But man, whenever I got a chance to watch him play, I was like, oh, this is why I love the game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he was. I say this all this is a known thing. I'm a massive Manchester United fan, but the player that really got me into soccer was Thierry Henry. I can never hold that.
Yeah,
I can never really hate him for that. I mean, I can like him a little less because he played for Arsenal, but besides that,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, he was a beauty to watch, and I mean, for our generation, the YouTube generation, basically, I can't ever a guy like Ronaldinho can't ever get left off that list either, you know.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's one of those are types of players where Ronaldinho in specifics where you cannot like soccer and be like, oh.
Yeah. Right.
Ah.
You're just like.
It's like watching with Ron or Steph Curry. It's like, oh damn, you have to put some type of respect on their name just because you visually can't understand how they did that.
Yeah, and you might be talking to the wrong guy. I'll be honest. People don't I'm not the biggest Steph Curry fan in the world. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie to you. Look, I respect. He's changed the game. I respect that. I respect that. I just don't love the fact you have to respect him. I respect him. I respect him as a player. I know he's good. I don't love that he's added into conversations that he doesn't necessarily belong to be in when it comes to these top players. Don't ever compare Steph Curry to Kobe Bryant.
What'd you say?
I said don't people that want to put him in the conversation he might actually be better than Kobe Bryant. Don't you ever dare.
You're talking to some dumb people. You guys not talking to them.
You know, but I don't think he's a top 10 player of all time either.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And people like to put him in that conversation. It's look, if you want to put him in that shooters conversation, then yeah, 100%. But as a basketball player,
let me pick your brain and let's leave it here.
Okay.
Where does he rank in your point guards of all time?
Point guards?
Top 5, top 10, top 15?
See, okay. Because I was a point guard. I love my point guards. I would probably...
Mm-hmm.
So if I put everything into consideration, obviously I'd have to think about it more, who's really on that list. But when I look for a point guard, I'll break this down, okay? I'm looking for a floor general. You got to be able to lead, right?
Yep.
You got to be able to see the court better than everybody. Like those are like the number two. Like those are the 1 and 2. You know, I which is why I think he drops down a lot for me. I don't like when you compare him to certain people, like just his own era, right? Like when I compare him to Chris Paul as a point guard, Chris Paul's way better as a point guard. However, like the problem is he plays point, but like the next thing is like, what do your handles look like? And he's up there, right? Like he deserves that. He got handles. Man's got skills. There's no doubt about it, right? Like the only person that I can even think about in the league like there's a couple guys, right? Like whose crossover or whose handles are better. Like you're Kyrie. I think I know he's not in the league right now, but like he was last year. Like the only like Jamal Crawford, underrated, but his handles are legendary. You know, like those kind of guys, like there's not many better, right? And then now, because of the way the game is, you got to be a scorer, and he checks those boxes. So he checks the other two. I don't think he's the greatest passer of all time. I don't think he's the greatest floor general, but he does check the other two. So I would say he's probably somewhere in that, like, if you're talking about point guards, he's probably somewhere around, you know, the bias in me wants to say 15. He's in the top 10. He is. Realistically, and you know, because of how much he's changed the game, he's probably in the top 5.
Kyle, I love you. You're driving me crazy.
Where do you rank him? Where do you rank him?
If I have a camera on my face right now, it would be the nastiest camera ever.
Hey, I have some logic to what I'm saying though. Like I get it. I get the love.
Fully, 100%. I can't deny your logic behind what you are saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Here's where my argument becomes. Right?
Okay.
When we and my friends talk about basketball or even sports in general, we talk about comparing people. We talk about sliders. Okay, right? And think about like your slider. Like my dribbling slider in soccer might be a 50 out of 100.
Right,
my
right.
competition is going to be a 90 out of 100.
For sure.
So if I can't dribble, I might be able to overcompensate with my competition.
For sure.
Okay. So, for example, Steph Curry's dribbling slider and shooting slider instantly puts him into the top 5 because no other point guard in the history of ever can put the ball up like him.
I can understand that.
And because he can dribble like he can, that allows him to be able to put the ball up, right? Like if Reggie Miller or Ray Allen could dribble, they might be considered some of the best of all time because their jump shot was the best, but they could never get their jump shot off.
Yeah, I get that. It's the same like category as like I don't think he's the best pure shooter on his team, but the fact that he's able to shoot from a variant of different ways, whether it's off the dribble, catch and shoot, you know, with contact, you know, makes him better than Klay. I think Klay's a better pure, like, if like you're asking someone just hit a 3-pointer, Klay's got a better stroke than he does, but like Klay can't do all the things that Steph is, which is why he's a way better player.
Well, that's what the anomaly of the whole conversation becomes, is because as much as I can talk about Steph Curry's shooting, you have to add Klay into that conversation. But gosh dang it, like Klay might be the best period ever.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Talk about a straight clip.
Yeah.
I got a clip in my pocket. What I'm gonna do with this clip is what I'm gonna do with this clip. He might have the best clip. Period.
Yeah, that's fair.
What do you have? Like 63 points off of 12 dribbles?
Yeah, so it was like it might have been less. It might have been less than that. It was stupid. It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He doesn't make sense.
It's tough.
It is really tough. So we gotta keep. This is the problem with us on a call because we just keep talking. Like we can't help it because there's so much good stuff to talk about. So I'm gonna keep going a little bit.
100%.
So I talked about your favorite player. I think I already know this just based on your playlist. But who's the person, the artist that inspired you the most?
J. Cole by far.
Yeah, for sure.
J. Cole by far.
though this might be different. What was the first song or first album or whatever that you heard where you were just like you kind of like it made you fall in love a little bit with like rap and hip hop?
50 Cent, Get Rich or Die Trying. So quick stories. I know we're doing quick shit.
No, you're good.
Fucking my mom, I heard Party in the Club, Bottom for the Club. I heard that on the radio. Loved it.
For sure.
Like, Mom, give me this. I want the CD. I wanna listen to 50 Cent. Like, give me the CD. Give me the CD. She goes out and buys the CD. Completely intends to buy the clean version because I'm only 11, 12 episodes.
For sure.
Dog, it was not the clean version. Far from it. So at that point, I fell in love with it, and about a year and a half later, I went to a 50 Cent concert.
That's awesome.
And it was game over from there, man.
That's amazing. No, that's great. All right, I think the last thing that we got to do, because we've talked a lot about soccer, a lot about music, a lot of different things. And normally in these podcasts, what I would do is I would show my my trivia, my ability to come up with these trivia questions. But as by far the least talented person on this call, I think we got to show off a little bit something else. So my idea is, why don't you give us a little bit something, whether some kind of a little bit of a freestyle, or maybe it's a song you do, whatever you want to do. Let everybody know what Truth Jones is about.
So for everybody, man, normally I would come out and I would showcase myself as far as my rapping ability, because I feel like that's where I really have my strengths, and I love to sing. I think I'm a decent singer, but man, through all this chaos and things that are going on, I'm actually just going to not showcase myself that much,
okay.
And I'm going to more so put on a message.
I'm cool with that. I love that.
This is the hook of Black Eyed Peas.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
People killing, people dying, children hurt and you hear them crying. If you practice what you preach, then won't you turn the other cheek? Father, 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 help us with some guidance from above. 'Cause people got me questioning, where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love? Where is the love, the love, the love?
My man. Always coming through. I appreciate it. Anything else that you want to say? I'm going to give you the floor real quick to say anything you want to say, whether it comes to soccer, whether it comes to music, whether it comes to life. Anything you want to put out there before we go.
Awesome. Quick little shout out to myself. If you want to follow any of my social media, Instagram, it's Truth Jones IG. Twitter, it's Truth Jones 989. Facebook, Truth Jones, or just Lawyer Jones. If you follow me, I follow back. I show love. Feel free to reach out. Soccer-wise, if you're a soccer player and you're listening to this, man, keep playing. It's a fucking beautiful sport. If you're young, I'm sorry for cussing. If you're old, you know where my passion lies for that sport as well, so that you get it. My hoopers out there, keep hooping. This is just the coach in you right now. You know what I mean? Keep grinding, get to it. Life-wise, we are going through some crazy stuff. Black Lives Matter. And when I say Black Lives Matter, I don't mean all lives don't matter. I'm just saying that, there's a certain type of life that isn't quite always respected by everybody. So
for sure,
I would like to leave it there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think
something said that all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. So that's
Thanks, brother. I love to hear that.
So that's the truth. Like I said, another time, another conversation. But I love you. I've had a great time. As always, these conversations are always good. They're always you never know what to expect. And I can't wait for the next time, man. All right.
Hey, I loved it, Kyle, man. I know we talked about an hour, but I didn't look at my phone until an hour 25, and I was like, my goodness, we're going.
Oh yeah, hey, time doesn't even matter when you're having a good time. So I appreciate it. This has been LJ. That's how I talk to him. Lawyer Jones, and like I said, I think many of you, especially in the music community, will know him as Truth Jones very soon. This has been Tactical Foul. I'm Kyle Grew, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, guys. Hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, make sure to follow everything we do at tacticalfoul.com, including podcast updates, blogs, and much more. Thanks for listening.